All right, good evening and welcome to our first playoff breakdown show of the 2023 high school football season. As the numbers came out today, the rankings for all the classifications from the FHSAA, and we're here to kind of break it down as we head towards the postseason. Already week 6 in the high school football season this week. We're at the halfway point, and we're ready to start talking playoffs already, Josh. I am Marty Pallman, along with Joshua Wilson of FlooridaHSFootball.com.
And yes, now we're going to see more of the thing. We've got a different setup here. We're going to be more that you can see the conversational side of it.
We are in the same room. We maybe tell it before. It looked like we were in different cities, but you know.
And you can see that we've got a little bit of a helmet collection going on here in the background.
Josh has a lot of helmets. Yeah.
Yes, I do true. Indeed. And Marty, I appreciate everything but here. But it's already hard to believe it's already week 6 here, and as you said, the FHA brought out the first pair of playoff rankings here, and it's interesting to see how everything is right now in terms of what we've got going on here. And the rankings, some people have already complained on Twitter.
Of course.
They're
always going to complain.
I mean, the complaints range is like, oh, okay. And then some are like, oh, these are just total garbage over here. And it's like, well, I guess it's a matter of opinion how you look at it.
They've got 5 more weeks for that all to be straightened out, I guess. So, we'll see as the season goes on. But yeah, I mean, again, it's week 6. We're barely through the halfway point. FHSA started doing this, I think, in 2017. And it's interesting that it's kind of a lot like the college football playoff, or the BCS used to be, where the numbers come out during the season, kind of halfway through, and then you go into the postseason. And I think it kind of gets people talking. I think it does, which is why we're here tonight already. We're bringing you
yes.
And before our shows we have coming up later, our podcast, of course, for South Florida, North Central, and the Gulf Coast. We're going to bring you some of these. Actually, we're going to look at all the classifications.
We are going to do that here in the next hour here, and then we'll get ready for our Blitz shows here tonight as well. Here coming up, the South Florida Blitz going on at 7:30. 8:15 will be the Central Florida Blitz, and then at 9 o'clock you will have the Gulf Coast Blitz, and then 9:45 will be North Florida. We flip South and North Florida because North Florida being split between 2 time zones.
Yeah, the Panhandle's an hour behind, so yeah, that's true. We're going to switch those around a little bit, but. Michael Parsons. Good evening, Marty and Josh. Anxious.
Yes, definitely.
I love it how many people are anxious already. It's only week 6, but
no, absolutely. Yeah. And we can bring up some of the comments here as well from our friends here. And first, before anything else, Philip Crutchfield, who at Raymond James Associates, appreciate what he does and helps us bring this to y'all every week in terms of shows here, live streaming here on FlooridaHSFootball.com and the FlooridaHSFootball.com social media platforms. And no two of us are exactly alike. That's why you need a financial advisor with the freedom to focus on the details that make your life your own, your family. The challenges you face, the dreams that you inspire you, whatever your goals, you need an advisor who can create a plan uniquely tailored to you, all backed by the sophisticated resources of Raymond James. That's life well planned. To learn more, call financial advisor Philip Crutchfield at 352-642-8330. Raymond James and Associates in INC, member New York Stock Exchange, SIPC.
Yeah, Philip, was longtime dean and athletic director at Eastside, loves high school sports, Eastside High School here in Gainesville, and now with a new career, and we appreciate him helping us out with that as well.
No, absolutely. And Marty, and of course, we do have a comment here from Roger Cruz, who's asking who Bradford plays in the playoffs. This is the first of the rankings. You're going to find out. I know Bradford is somewhere in that mix. Bradford's 4-0. They had their bye week here this past week, so we'll talk about Bradford. We'll talk about a lot of teams. Some teams you might be shocked for a lot of y'all watching at home. Might be shocked to see that they're right now here in that mix for a playoff spot. But remember, these are only the first set of rankings. By the time we talk in week 10, week 11, week 11 being the final rankings before the final release comes out on Sunday after week 11, which we will do a whole big breakdown show that Sunday evening once we digest everything and get some good guests on and everything and all that. So, but we'll find out. So if y'all are watching, got a comment, drop the comment. Especially if you're watching on Facebook and YouTube, and if you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, click that notification bell, and be able to subscribe into all our videos.
Right, absolutely, and of course, this kind of reminds me of the NCAA tournament show when they always reveal that. Of course, I love that show. hour of that. And I think we're going to start tonight, in fact, with one.
We're going to start with 1R.
We're going to start with the rule classification. Yeah.
No, absolutely. And we're going to bring that up here on the screen as y'all see this. And we're going to bring that up. And, very interesting here to start off with everything in terms of where 1R Region 1, Marty. Holmes County sitting at that 1 seed. Holmes County actually has beaten Chipley, who was one of the top seeds. But I'll tell you something right here. You look at it here. There's one team that is missing that has been consistently in the playoffs the last decade, if people out there in the Panhandle are watching, and that is the Baker Gators. 0-4 on the season. They are nowhere to be found here, Marty.
Yeah, well, and they're 0, as you said, they're 0-4 to start. How about that? That's something. And Jay is a team that's, I think, undefeated. Jay's having a great year. As you look to it down here, Bozeman, the 2 seed, Chipley and Vernon, the 4-5, would be a pretty good matchup the first round. And
yes,
Northview, who won this region last year, got to the state title game, is the 6 seed right now.
No, absolutely. And of course, Vernon, a team that was struggling last year, here they are. They're 2-2 right now out of the first 5 weeks. So Vernon's sitting there at a 5 seed, and it's looking very, very interesting there in Region 1. And so there you go. Holmes County sitting there with the 1 seed, and Bozeman sitting there 2. Bozeman, another team that's up on the rise, and they're undefeated on the season as well. I believe they're 5-0 here as we speak right now. 5-0 on the record. So yes, indeed, that is, without 4-0, 4-0. So, but they're undefeated.
Yeah, that's the Philip Crutchfield region. I like to say he's from he knows a lot about those teams coming from over in Jackson County in that area, Mariana. So we appreciate. Sure, he would have some comments on that, but. All right, that's 1R Region 1. We move to Region 2, and
yes,
very top you see Asilla Christian, the number 1 seed.
Yes, and that was surprising. That came into a surprise to me as Asilla Christian sitting there at number 1 here as we look at everything. But Port St. Joe sitting there at 2. Port St. Joe struggled against Rutherford this past week, so I mean it's very interesting to see how these numbers are starting to shake. Of these first numbers, where are these teams sitting at?
Yeah, that 3-6-2 Bluntstown and Wewa Hitchka. Bobby John's team there, and Bluntstown, they were having a good year as well. Liberty County and Sneeds, the 4-5 right now. So
yeah, and Sneeds has struggled. Sneeds has lost a couple games back to back here, and lost to Miller County, a county, a team out of Georgia, that a team that has struggled themselves. So Sneeds is on the struggle here. We're trying to figure out what's going on with the Pirates there at Sneeds, but that's a look at Class 1R Region 2 there. And now here where we kind of are, some of our where we're at here in Gainesville, the back of in our neck of the woods here, Marty. We get into Class 1R Region 3 here, and Lafayette sitting there at 1, Fort White 2, which actually I'm not surprised by Fort White at 2. I thought Fort White might have been 1, given the fact that if we look at Union County sitting in at 4, Union County, they've been struggling.
How are they? Well, I'm surprised they're a 4 though, because they are 2-2, but they played Walton, who's what 2R or 2S. Yeah,
yes.
they're highly ranked. They lost a close game. Their game with Columbia was postponed due to the hurricane. They lost last week to Orlando Christian Prep, who's unbeaten. So Union County's schedule has been pretty brutal. But yeah, right now a 4 against Brantford is a 5. Brantford made it last year as well. But if you remember a year ago, Union County played Lafayette in the region final and blew them out. So it's even if Union County was going to play Lafayette, it would be in Mayo this time. But you mentioned Fort White just coming off their first loss of the season last week, which came to Williston. Nothing wrong with that. And then at the bottom, Madison County, who just took their first loss of the year, although again, that comes to Florida High. Nothing wrong with that. They'll get right now. Hilliard is the 6th seed, would play Madison in the opening round of Region 3. So
no, you're right about that, Marty. You're absolutely right about that. And I mean, it's very, very interesting to see here. I think when it kind of starts to shake out, right now, I mean, do I expect Union County to rise up towards the thing? I would hope so, but from my understanding now is their game against Columbia that is not being scheduled.
No.
My understanding is maybe there's an offer on the table, but I don't know all the details. But right now as it stands, showing on Max Preps on the scheduling, the official scheduling there for the FHSAA, that is not there at all. So I can tell you that right now.
Yeah, and they still have Hawthorne on their slate. Of course, Hawthorne, we'll get to them in a minute in Region 4. But County's got some games coming up too that are gonna test them, and it kind of starts with that Hawthorne game coming up in October.
No, absolutely. And guys, if you got any questions, comments, or anything that maybe we can try to answer, drop a comment in the chat there between Facebook and YouTube, especially if you're on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button and then click that notification bell to get notifications when we are putting new videos up, streaming and everything. But we will break these videos down so that way y'all can see your classifications that you want to see here as we talk about the playoff rankings here as we go through the rest of the 2023 season. Now, looking at Region 4, Marty, you just alluded to here. I mean, I did this one's very interesting, but I mean, I think there's a reason why we can explain the 1 and 2 where Williston and Hawthorne are sitting at right now.
Well, absolutely. Williston has just been rolling teams. I mean, they beat Fort White 42-7 last week. It was unbeaten before that at Fort White. Well-deserved number 1 seed. They went 10-0 a year ago, lost the opening round of the postseason, though, to Williston. And then Hawthorne, the defending 1R state champs, right there at number 2. And, last year we thought we were going to have a Hawthorne-Williston showdown. It never materialized because Williston lost in the opening round of Wildwood. So right now, if it would go according to form, they would play at Williston. So that would be interesting to see. But again, a lot more to do. Hawthorne's schedule is still pretty tough, so they have a chance to maybe get to that 1 seed. Meanwhile, Pahokee, the only team that's not from North Central Florida, the 4 seed now, and Chiefland would have to make that trip, and they've done that before. In fact, I think they just did it a year ago. That'd be tough for Chiefland to go down there. And then on the bottom, Newberry, what a year they're having, and Dixie County, 2 rivals would go at it. So that's a lot of fun to see. But I'd say right now it's going to be hard for it not to be Williston and Hawthorne for the region final.
No, you're absolutely right, Marty, and everything in here and all that. And of course, it's a lot going on, a lot there, dear, just in Class 1R. But I mean, when we talk about this, the playoffs here, I think, the rural playoffs, regardless of how the matchups end up shaking out, these teams are excited. These teams are going to be pumped to go. And now some of the ones that may be sitting on the outside looking in, they know what's at stake. They know what's going to happen. They know what they got to do now here in the next few weeks.
Yeah, they do. And again, a long way to go. You still got more than half the season, or about half the season to go. And so, yeah, there's still a lot that can happen. And, it is nice to look at it now. But again, a lot's probably going to change before we make the final announcements. I guess the first weekend in November was when that final.
Yes, it is. I mean,
will start the following week.
No, you're absolutely right there, Marty. And yeah, that'll be right there is that first weekend and going into the November there. That'll be a thing. Hopefully cooler weather then for everybody across Florida by then at that point, Marty. And of course, taking a look at things here, we've got ready here. How about we go into Class 1S? We got regions 1 and 2, Marty, here ready and lined up for everybody here. So let's take a look at that here in Class 1S Region 1, 2. And I actually bring up, before we actually kind of get into that there, let me go ahead and call that up here. Let me bring us back on the screen here for a moment here, because Michael Parsons has got a comment here, and he's very interested in that. And so let me bring this up here, Marty, here with the comments here that Michael Parsons says here. Williston versus Pahokee. Whoa, Red Devils versus Blue Devils. that would be very interesting.
Well, last year, of course, Pahokee and Hawthorne played a classic. It was 21-20. Hawthorne was able to hold on. And you're right, the Blue Devils really played Hawthorne tough. And yeah, Williston, that would be another battle, I think, if Pahokee can make it up here. Not as talented as they were last year. Pahokee lost a lot of talent from the team last year. But again, they're always dangerous. And unfortunately, for them, fortunately for the teams in the area we live in, they'd rather Pahokee make the trip up here than having to go down there. So, as I said, Chiefland, that's what they have the matchup right now. But yeah, that would be fun to see Pahokee and Williston play. And I don't want to look ahead to Williston Hawthorne completely, because I know that would be a battle. But yeah, Pahokee against either Williston or Hawthorne would be one to watch as well.
No, absolutely. And of course, with that, looking at that, let's get into where we got Class 1S Region 2 here, regions 1 and 2 here, which is some of these smaller schools along that are not in the bigger cities here. So let's talk about this here, Marty. Looking at region 1, remember we're at 1S, and then we'll also same apply with 1M when we go to 1M after this. is that only 4 teams per region. So the 2 district champs, 2 at-large teams going into the playoffs here. And right now, as it stands, looking at Region 1 here, North Florida Christian sitting there, that 1 seed. And Monroe Day 2, who actually, by the way, has not won a game yet, is sitting there at the 2 seed because of the way they have played a tough schedule, by the way. So I will say that.
Yeah, they're going to need to win some games, I would think. And I think that's interesting. They haven't won a game yet, the 2 seed. That tells you how much the schedule strength matters in this. But, you look at, too, at the bottom of this region, Trinity Catholic, who was the state runner-up a year ago in 1A, they're the 4 seed at 1-3, but they've already played Rains, Carrollwood Day. They've played Clearwater Central Catholic. Gainesville is down, but they're the team that's a 4 seed right now. And PK Young is the 3. PK Young, who, by the way, I think has about 15 players. Willie Jackson's got them at 2-2 with their losses to Hawthorne. Lost to Hawthorne last week, which isn't bad. So PK Young, a team that's ahead of Trinity Catholic right now, which is interesting. I don't know. We'll see if that continues. Their schedule is getting tougher as the year goes on, but nice to see PK Young in there right now at 2-2, and they would play Holy Trinity according to this. Halifax Academy of Daytona would play Trinity Catholic, it says here.
Yes, by the way, Halifax Academy undefeated.
Wow, so there they are, the 1 seed. Yep.
So I mean, but they still have yet to play Holy Trinity in their district. So we'll watch out and see what happens there in that particular region, and especially watching. I think by the time, to be honest with you, by the time we get to week 11 to the final rankings, Trinity Catholic will be the 1 seed in that region. I just think that's going to be the case.
Well, I think Trinity Catholic could go 3-7 or 2-8 and win the state title with their schedule. They play a lot of teams up. I mean, yeah.
And they got a trip to Ohio coming up next month.
Jeez, man, John Brantley's playing everybody there.
I mean, yes, yes. Don't leave it up to John Brantley III to bring you a tough schedule at Trinity Catholic.
Absolutely.
So. All right, moving into Class 1S regions 3 and 4 here. We've got, some interesting, especially with Region 3. This is really not surprising, but there's a team that's in Region 3 that is not even close, and they're the last team in their region. That's John Carroll Catholic, who Trinity Catholic played in the state semifinals last year to get to Tallahassee to play for the 1S state championship.
They're not in here. Yeah, you're
no.
right. And if you look at this, a lot of Christian schools, Lakeland and Zephyr Hills up top, Victory Christian. That's Lakeland Victory Christian, I'm thinking. And then
it is.
Yeah. And then at the bottom, Community School Naples, Evangelical Christian, also from Naples, First Baptist, the defending state champ from Naples, and Moore Haven, which is not from Naples, but nearby. All the rest of those teams in that region are from the Naples area. So
Naples, Fort Myers, yes.
That's right. So yeah, basically that pretty much covers Southwest Florida in that area, and then Cardinal Mooney is Sarasota as well. So yeah, interesting to see this. Lakeland Christian has been there before, had a couple of years, a little bit down years for them lately, but there they are back at the 1 seed. And then First Baptist, the defending state champs, as we said, won their first state title last year in 1S, beating Trinity Catholic. They are down there in the bottom of the 2 seed, and see if they can pass Community School to get to that 1.
No, absolutely. You're watching the playoff rankings breakdown show here on FloydHSFootball.com and the FloydHSFootball.com social media channels here and everything, Marty. I mean, just looking at everything, 1S, it's there's only like 23 teams in 1S. It's not a huge classification by any means. And almost everybody's making the playoffs. So, I know that's frustrating for some teams there to be speaking. It's like majority of the teams are making playoffs. Some teams are not. But then you got the fan side of it is like, the fans are like, well, it's water down. And I might have to actually agree in some cases in this situation, because it is you're going to see some teams with some losing records. And you got a few districts there in 1S that are also 2-team districts. So 1 district game gets you the district title.
Right. And it's kind of where we are. PK Young last year, remember, went 3-7 in the regular season and made the playoffs and won their first round game, ended up in the second round against Trinity Catholic. So yeah, they were 4-8 last year and made the second round of the playoffs. So yeah, that'll happen. We've seen it happen before, but in that classification, it definitely has a possibility of happening, as you said, with only 23 teams. No,
you're absolutely right there on that one here. And, taking a look at a couple of things here, we're going to get a thing. You're going to think, but by the way, for y'all watching, if you're not on YouTube subscribing, get on youtube.com/FloydHSFootball, hit that subscribe button, click that notification bell, and that way you can get notifications when we go live or share new videos here across the FloydHSFootball.com social media landscape. All right, Marty, we have region class 1M regions 1, 2, 3, and 4 here coming up here. And I'll tell you what, it's looking at it here, Marty. Uh, I mean, this is interesting here. I mean, do you see the anomaly already sitting there in Class 1M Region 1?
Randy Christian's a 4 seed.
Yeah.
That's one. Yeah, if that's the anomaly you're talking about, yeah, that's what I would think it would be. And Orlando Christian Prep is the 1, and they're 5-0 right now. So, yeah, that'd be an interesting first-round matchup. Trinity Christian having to go to OCP, and then Providence. How about them as a 3 seed this year? They haven't been I don't know if they've been in the playoffs in many years. Again, and the University Christian is the 2. Of course, University Christian knocked off Trinity last year. But, yeah, that's an interesting top of that region in Region 1.
No, absolutely. And of course, Clearwater Central Catholic holding that 1 seed there in Region 2 there in Class 1M, and Carrollwood Day there too. I think I'd be honest with you, Marty, is that those 2 teams right there will be your 1 and 2 seeds in that region because they are really strong. They have played some really strong schedules. I think, the 4, 3, and 4 seeds, it's going to be interesting. You got Indian Rocks Christian. You got North Sumner Christian could be in play for maybe that 4 seed. So if Northside Christian, I mean, they've got a tough schedule, but the thing, they've got a game coming up I want to say it's not this week, but in a couple weeks, they got to play. They're going to play Clearwater Central Catholic, and that was not on the schedule last year. So this is actually going to boost their schedule up. So we'll see what happens there.
I mean, you would think, looking at this too, with Trinity Christian, University Christian, and Clearwater Central and Carrollwood Day, you think, well, the state champion probably will come out of these regions, except for the fact that who's in Region 3 and 4 or.
Yeah, this is the next one. This is where we're going to go here because the next one, it should not be no surprise to anybody sitting here.
Yeah,
Chaminade Madonna sitting there.
That's why they aren't necessarily going to be state champs, because Chaminade Madonna, who might be the best team in the state and actually couldn't, outside of IMG Academy, who's an independent, I think they are, because they've beaten already Miami Central. They beat. They went on the road nationally ranked. Who they beat nationally ranked? It was earlier, very first game.
Chaminade Madonna. Yeah. That would have been. I want to say it's.
They've had a pretty tough slate there.
No, I think it was St. Francis Academy, I want to say.
Yeah, yes, that's right.
Yeah, St. Francis Academy. I'm just trying to remember off the top of my head because they've played, Chaminade Madonna has played a tough slate. So, I mean, that was part of the Broward versus USA showcase there. And
yeah, so I would say a heavy favorite in that Region 3 up top. Cardinal Newman and Benjamin there as well from West Palm Beach or Palm Beach. And then True North, that's a new one to me.
They're a newer school. They're a newer school. They that's playing football. They're actually a small charter school. They're a True North Classical Academy, but they're a public charter school from what I have read. And True North just beat First Baptist, by the way, this past week. So that's huge right there. That's why True North sitting there in the 1 seed. True North, played Chaminade Madonna in the state semifinals last year. I think that might be a possibility again this year. But again, Chaminade Madonna is just loaded here, Marty. And I mean, just honestly, there's a lot there, and it's really, really, really interesting to see what's going to happen here in the next few weeks here as Chaminade Madonna continues their roll.
Yeah, and again, I think if you saw Chaminade Madonna against University Christian or Trinity Christian, that'd be a game worth watching. Yeah, I think, or even OCP, whoever comes out of that other side.
Considering Chaminade Madonna just beat Miami Central 31-28, so that was a big game there.
Powell, so not bad. No. We'll be talking to Larry Bluestein about that coming up in South Florida, our South Florida Blitz. So
yes, absolutely.
But interesting there. That's Class 1M, Regions 3 and 4.
No, absolutely. Regions 3 and 4 there as we get looking at some things here. But we got a couple of comments sitting there in the chats here. And from Michael Parsons, stacked about time. He's right about that. And then, of course, he says about something about Cardinal Newman. Newman needs to get out of the top bracket, at least to the region final. So, that's the thing. It's the problem is that they're in the same region, Michael. And that's going to be the tough problem for Cardinal Newman is that if Cardinal Newman was in regions 1 or 2, Cardinal Newman probably would get out of that region, out of that, get hit to the state semifinals. But the problem is being in the same region with Chaminade Madonna. I mean, good luck there. I mean, that's the tough one.
Yeah, it is. And, but you got to play the game. So we'll see what happens. Not Cardinal, not if he's a Cardinal Gibbons. We'll be talking about a little bit, but yes, Cardinal Newman. And, probably a team that will get a shot. They'll probably get a shot at Chaminade Madonna. We'll see how that goes. That would probably be in the second round, the region semifinals.
All right. Coming up here, we've got the classes 2, the 2S, 2M, 3M, 3M, and then 4S, and then 4M. I mean, talking about the numbers, trying to keep it all straight.
Alphabet soup. Yes, that's right.
That's a good one, Marty. Alphabet soup. We'll see how the alphabet soup here works here. So let's get into it here with 2S Region 1 here as we look at it here in terms of everything. 2S Region 1, so we're going into Class 2S. We've got an interesting mix here, Marty.
Yeah, up top you got Walton, South Walton, Grandpa Walton, John Boy Walton, all the Waltons, Walton family, Walton Mountain. But yeah, that'd be interesting. Walton and South Walton playing in the opening round. And Walton, what a year they're having. Number 1 seed. They beat Union County a couple of weeks ago over an overtime game.
By the way, Walton just had another overtime game this past week. It was South Walton, by the way.
And they won it.
Yes.
So Walton, that's why they're the 1 seed right now. But you do see Pensacola Catholic and Mariana lurking in that 4-5 game. And both of those teams are tough as well. Swanee, the 2, undefeated.
Oh, yeah.
Swanee Bulldogs. And they would say West Florida's a 7. Then you got Wakulla. We know about Wakulla. They've been there before as well. How about that game? Florida High would be at Wakulla opening round. And Florida High, the state runner-up from a year ago in 2S. I have a feeling they're going to be moving up as the season goes on. Already coming off a win at Madison County last week, so they're starting to play really good football. And yeah, that's going to be a tough region to get out of there, Region 1.
No, you're absolutely right here. I mean, honestly, it's one of those things. It's just it's going to be a tough region to try to really kind of work yourself out of here. But Florida High. I expect Florida High to be shifting up here in terms of the power rankings. Florida High still hasn't hit some of the meat of their schedule, so that's part of the problem right there. And we got to remind you that's some of the problem here for in terms of the first rankings. We're dealing. We're at the midway point of the season. 5 weeks of ranking, 5 weeks of data here. So some of these teams still haven't hit the meat of that schedule yet. And of course, district play is starting if they hadn't started there in week 4, a lot of teams are starting their district play this week here as we enter week 6.
Right. All right. Well, we're going to move along to 2S Region 2 as Roger Cruz asked where Bradford is. Well, there they are. And how about that matchup? North Marion. Marion is 1-3. They've been struggling. Got blown out by Swanee last week. They're playing Eastside this week. And there's Eastside at 4 against Baldwin the 5. So you're kind of assuming Eastside will win that district, which if they beat North Marion this week, most likely will. But that's an interesting Baldwin who's played pretty well. The only loss coming to Bradford. Then you got Yulee as the 2 seed, and Baker County is a 7. That is an interesting flip there.
Actually, I think Baldwin lost to Baker County already too. So
Baldwin, you're right. They have 2 losses. They lost to Bradford and Palatka. How about Palatka? We'll see if this continues, and it might. They're undefeated 4-0, and there they are as the 3 seed. They would host Fernandina Beach, so an interesting region 2. But I think if you look at this, and I know it's early, Bradford would be the heavy favorite in this region.
No, you're absolutely right. I think Bradford would be the heavy favorite in this region. And actually, very interesting. I know this is interesting. I know someone's going to ask me about this, and I just noticed this. But where's the team from District 8 at? Because they really should be on that bracket here, and that's as the 8th seed. So really, North Marion might not even actually be in there. And this is my mistake actually looking at it. And I just want to bring that up here. Let me pull it up here real quick from the FHSAA website, because I do have, the thing, because I do want to say that this is probably where it's going to go. So I apologize if I offended anybody in this situation here. They're wondering about this, but really the team from District 8 there should really be that 8th seed sitting there. So let me pull it up here in terms of that situation here, Marty. And I mean, it's that district's weird because it's Crescent City, Port Orange Atlantic, and Pearson Taylor, and that's a district that they struggle a lot. All those teams have been struggling.
Who was the first team you said?
Crescent City.
Oh, I think Crescent City will probably end up taking that, but yeah, that's true.
No, and that's what I'm going to look at here is try to find that real quick here. So in terms of the 2S here, let's get it to here. Let me see if I can get this sorted here. It's trying to have to click several buttons here to get in terms of the way it's organized here in terms of how they handle it here. So 2S Region 2. So let's see where they're sitting at here. So North Marion would be right now. Actually, Port Orange Atlantic would be the one that would be sitting there in that slot there at 8. So Port Orange Atlantic, but potentially, yeah. But North Marion. I mean, it just depends. I mean, that's the problem is that again, district champs automatically qualify, but again, it's true seeding. So, North Marion, hey, for North Marion, they're going to have to win. They're going to have to beat Eastside probably potentially to get out of there. And, and then of course Atlantic, if Port Orange Atlantic, they could get some things going here, maybe they might be able to boost their schedule up here to boost their strength up a little bit to be able to get across into that top 8 there without having any issue of, anyone saying, hey, well, this team bumped this team out because of the district championship situation.
Right.
So just a side note there.
Oh, yeah. And last year, Crescent City did make that, play Bradford in the first round, and it was beaten pretty soundly. But we'll see. Bradford, again, I think heavy favorite there. Look at this. Cocoa, speaking of heavy favorites, Region 3, Cocoa, the 1 seed. And that's not surprising at all, as their only loss this year. Well, was it a loss to St. Thomas Aquinas? Officially, it goes down as 1, but they lost by 1 point down in Fort Lauderdale. And then Eustis, the 8, we get in as the 8. That could change as well. South Sumter, the 4 seed, their only losses come to Hawthorne and Denell in the 5. That's interesting. Titusville, Mount Dora, the 2-7. The Titusville Terriers
5-0.
Yeah, and they just knocked off Fleming Island last week. Yeah, and then you got on the other side of the state, Hudson and Nature Coast Tech. That's a rivalry game, 3-6. Those 2 teams already played. So, yeah, interesting. This is a little bit of a mix here, this Region 3. But I mean, Cocoa again, I would say probably considered the heavy favorite in this region. Although we'll see if South Sumter can give them a run for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, Hudson's doing really well. Of course, Nature Coast, they've got a new head coach, Rob Casimir, there this year. So, but Nature Coast sitting there, Hudson's already beaten Nature Coast. So that would be a district rematch right there. Right. And of course, South Sutton or Dunellen would be interesting because that would be a district rematch, but they haven't played each other yet this year. So we'll see what happens here in terms of what's in terms of all that. But then we got Region 4 here, which Marty, I look at it and see here's Fort Meade sitting at 1, and then Sarasota Booker at the 8 seed. But I mean, really, I'll tell you this: the team I think is the team that's going to be to beat in that region this year, Bishop Verot. Again, who the team that was in the state semifinals. But I think Bishop Verot's got everything sitting there in the cooker to get to the state title game this year.
The cooker, I like that. First, I got to go around the mulberry bush, though, according to this. And then at the bottom, I love these names, Lemon Bay and Frostproof, 2 of my favorite names as well, especially Frostproof there. But that's a program that we haven't heard much from lately. They've been a powerhouse through the years. But, Fort Meade was in the rural class for a while. Now they've moved up to 2S. And, that's a team that's been in the state championship game many times. So, yeah. And
I got to bring this up here because Emery Smith is right. This is what the problem is when they do these rankings, and
they don't put the actual district champs in there. Right?
Yeah, and that's the problem here. And Emery, thank you so much for bringing that up here. I'm going to go ahead and look for the District 14 team. You're right about that. I apologize again on that. Again, it's hard when you're trying to sort through these first rankings and stuff, and that's why I was trying to look through my district records, and I just managed to slip up on that one. So I'm human. Nothing's perfect. I'll tell you that. I try to make it perfect, but I can't. I realize I can't make it perfect. But
that's right. That's the thing. You're right. They don't put the numbers. They don't put all the district champs in there. They just put them in the order of the teams at the time, which those teams will, as you said, the team whoever wins the district will be in there as well. But
by the way, so that team, that number 8 team, right this second, to answer Emery Smith's question here. And I know Emery Smith. I know Emery well. He's been a long time follower. Emery, your Hardy Wildcats would be sitting there at the number 8 seed. They're just right below Booker. So there you go. This District 14. So I mean, that's probably why he's asking, but he's not wrong there. So I mean, it is a thing, and of course,
it's got what is that? Hassani Harper.
Yeah, we'll bring that up here in a moment. Here, I'll bring us back up here on the camera here, so that way everybody can see us here as we to converse about this here on this one. But Marty, I'll tell you what, here in this one, it's Hassani Harper.
Fort Meade versus Bishop Rowe. Projection. Okay.
Hassani, you're not wrong. I don't think you're wrong on that one. I mean, Frostproof last year was that team from Polk County that made the run into the regional final against Bishop Verot. But I mean,
yeah, that's true. Justin Floyd asked, "How about 4S? Be patient. We're getting there."
Yeah, we're working on it. We're working on it. We're working our way up through. So
So right now we're in 2S. So that means we will move on to 2M.
Yeah, absolutely. We will move on to 2M here, right here, as we talk. And here you go, Marty. Your region that you're from. Well. Yeah. You know this region very well, and I don't know if you're very happy about this 4-5 matchup sitting the early projection.
Well, if I don't have to go to Orlando for it, I'll be okay, because we just went to Bishop Moore 2 weeks ago with Bishop Kenny. But yeah, right now they would be the 4-5. That would be at Bishop Kenny. Well, it actually may not be at Bishop Kenny, as you said. If Bishop Moore wins the district, it could be there. But yeah, Rains the 1, not surprising. Only loss for Rains is to Mainland right now. They just beat Trinity Catholic. Wolfson as the 8 is interesting, and they play Bishop Kenny this week in the district opener. Bowles and Ed White, interesting as well. Bowles the 2. They're assuming Bowles will win that District 2M2, which they could. They play Episcopal this week. And then Riverside, by the way, Riverside's already in.
Yeah, congratulations to Riverside, the Riverside Generals.
Week 5, they're in the playoffs.
Who has already clinched their district, by the way.
They already beat Ed White and beat Westside. They're district champs.
District 2M3, they are in. The Riverside Generals are in. I mean, you can't say any more than that. I mean, you win your district, you're in. That's how you qualify automatically in. As you said, Riverside sitting there at that 3 seed, but Bowles, who started off 0-3, has now won 2 straight. Yeah, but they have played one of the toughest schedules in the state.
Well, I'm going to tell you that they are in our Prep Zone Power Poll, which we do for 26 counties in this area. Bowles started the year, of course, in like 7th or 8th. They fell out at 0-3, but then they beat Trinity Christian. So last week at 1-3, they were actually the first team receiving votes, the first team out. Then they beat Oakleaf, who was ranked. So I think Bowles will be back in the poll probably with a 2-3 record. I mean, they are probably the best 2-3 team in the state of Florida, because they've played Coffee County, Georgia. They played St. Augustine, who's undefeated. They played Mandarin, who just lost their first game to Creekside by a point. And then they beat Trinity Christian, and then they beat Oakleaf.
And so, by the way, speaking of such things with Bowles, the combined winning percentage of the 5 opponents they have played so far is .813.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go. That explains why sitting there at 2 right there. And then look at Rains. I mean, here's the thing. Rains is 3-1. They've played some tough teams, but the combined winning percentage of their opponents is .500.
Well, that's true, because Trinity Catholic's 1-3. They just beat. But Trinity Catholic's been playing everybody. They lost. Now Mainland is undefeated. That's the one team they play that really is doing well. And we'll get to Mainland in a minute as well. But
yeah. No, absolutely, and everything, and of course, taking a look here at region to get into 2M Region 2 here, Marty. Berkeley Prep sitting there at 1 and Clearwater at 2. What would a team that's interesting that had made the deep run, went to the state semifinals last year, sitting there. There's Lakewood sitting there at 7, who just finally won their first game of the season after dropping 4 games straight. But again, Lakewood has a tough schedule here, so can't really knock them there. But one team that's really interesting sitting there, that number 8 seed, is Tampa Jefferson, who's only won one game. They're 1-4 here, but sitting there at 8 seed. So, but again, remember, guys. Remember, everybody, the things are going to change here. Things are going to change here over the next few weeks. What we see here, right here on this screen, may look totally different come next Tuesday evening.
Right. We're not announcing the playoff teams this weekend. So, yeah.
No.
Right? There's going to be like 5 more weeks coming up. But, yeah, that's true. And actually 6 more weeks. Yeah. So, but, yeah, that is interesting. By the way, let's see. I don't know if you want to go to that.
We'll go to the comments here after we get done.
Like you said, I think Berkeley Prep and Clearwater and Tampa Catholic will all be teams to watch in this region. Definitely Tampa Catholic.
And Calvary Christian, too. I'll say that.
Yeah, right.
And I'm surprised Calvary's sitting there in that 5 seed. I think they'll eventually kind of rise up a little bit more. But Calvary Christian, Clearwater, that'll be a game to watch when they play here in the district, in the districts over here in the next few weeks. So go into 2M Region 3 here. Let's look at this here. All right, you're going to get confused. All right, American Heritage is sitting there, but we can tell you which one is which right off the bat. American Heritage Plantation sitting there at that 1 seed. Right. American Heritage Del Rey at the number 6 seed. That should be no confusion at all there after that.
No, I think you would realize the Plantation team is a little higher than the Del Rey team, and then you got Cardinal Gibbons as the 2 seed. I mean, we just talked to Coach last week here on our South Florida Blitz, and the Cardinal Gibbons is having another good year. They've won 3 of the last 4 state championships, so watch out. They are going to be a team to watch again. And then St. Andrews from Boca Raton down there played Del Rey American Heritage, but again, this will change. Stranahan is the 8 seed as well. So, but that's gonna be fun. If American Heritage ends up playing Cardinal Gibbons, that'll be a lot of fun. It usually is. They've played before.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And of course, Somerset Canyon sitting there at that 7 seed. But go into Region 4, which this is probably the most loaded region of all the regions in Class 2M, Marty, because this is pretty much Miami-Dade County And some people are be like, well, why in the heck is Miami Central a 2 seed? Miami Norland is a 1. Well, one, I can tell you right this second, again, this is still early, but Miami Central has a game that was suspended. They're one of their district games. It's whether they haven't kind of, I think, figured out when to finish that game off here. But Miami Norland, they're 5-0 on the season. I mean, Miami Norland, they are looking strong. So, and they're both in the same district. So, watch out. Can Miami Norland beat Miami Central? I mean, if this keeps rolling, that Norland team is going to give the Rockets a lot of fits. The Vikings versus the Rockets here. It's coming up pretty soon.
Vikings and the Rockets. Yeah, I like the sound of that. New Orleans, a team. We haven't talked about them as much the last few years, but like you said, right now, their undefeated record, they've already beaten Lakeland to start the year. And Miami Central having really a tough schedule to start. Lost in Vegas against Bishop Gorman, lost to Chaminade Madonna. But I think we'll still hear from them, as you said. If we see Central and Gulliver Prep or Booker T. Washington on the bottom, that would be a lot of fun to watch too. That would be obviously at Traz Powell if it's Central Booker T. And then again up top, I think New Orleans probably heavy favorite at this point with Miami Springs and Miami Edison awaiting the second round.
No, you're absolutely right there, Marty, and everything. And then, of course, Miami Springs is interesting. They're 4-1 on the season so far, and I'm surprised to see them sitting there. But we'll see what happens there. I mean, if Bill Daly's watching, that's his Miami Springs Golden Hawks. There's Bill Daly down there from the Miami Herald. But Booker T. Washington Center 6 seed. I think Booker T. will end up being a little bit more higher, if not in that top 4, just because Booker T. Is one of the stronger teams in terms of their schedule, and you'll see that and everything here coming up here over the next few weeks. And of course, let's go to the chat here real quick, Marty, and bring up some comments here that we have seen here in the terms of Michael Parsons asked if you think that the state champs come out of Region 3 and 4. Well, 99.9%, yes, I think so. I mean, that I would not disagree on there right there in terms of what 2M, but then Emery Smith says, in regards to 2S Region 4, Hardy usually plays Fort Meade week 1 every year. But yeah, that's it. So, it's interesting to think about that, not sure what's going to happen there. And so, I'm sure the coaches maybe not too pleased. We don't know. And so it's kind of interesting to see what's happening. But this one from Michael Parsons, Berkeley Prep versus CCC Part 2. Yes, indeed. That'll be very interesting. And of course, this one here, Marty. This one.
Yeah, Gibbons. That's right. Gibbons and American Heritage Plantation. They play this week again. So, yeah, that's true. We could see that again in the postseason. But, yeah, they always play during the season. They'll play this week. So, that'll be a big one as well. And then also, Michael or Sonny Harper saying Miami Norland against Miami Central.
He's saying over Miami. He'll take Miami Norland over Miami Central. And Hassani, and of course, Hassani says that, but Michael Parsons says he'll take Miami Norland over Miami Central, I should say. And you might not be wrong, Michael. We'll see what happens here. And of course, and all that. So, and then. Let's do this here. Julian Robinson asked, "Can we see 1R?" Well, yeah, you kind of missed it here. We started off with 1R. We're working our way up, but what you hit the replay, you'll be able to see 1R after we're done. We'll break it down here and get that up here in the next 24 hours here on FloodHSFootball.com and YouTube. Break down the sections here that we have talked about, and of course, Michael Cummings says. He replied about CCC Chaminade, so that'll be interesting there to say that, but and then. Thinking maybe Berkeley Prep won't play CCC again. We'll see what. Actually, you know what? You're right. Berkeley, they're not in the same class, but I'll tell you what, they won't see each other. But if they were in the same class, if this was normal classifications back when it used to be 3A, both of them would see each other again, probably.
Right. Yep, that's true. Okay. Well, I think we're gonna blow past the 1 hour mark tonight. We're halfway through here. Let's see, 3S. That's okay.
There we go
to 3S, and that's Region 1, and this is another one. Oh boy, look at the top. Josh has got to be proud of this. We'll see if this holds, because I think St. Augustine and Middleburg are in the same district again.
No, they're not
anymore. That's right, they used to be. But yeah, I mean, if Middleburg makes the postseason and goes to St. Augustine, I'm sad to say that probably isn't going to be good for Middleburg. But hey, making the postseason for the second year in a row would be a big deal for them. But
considering that it has not been done since the 1980s, by the way.
Exactly. St. Augustine, they're the 1 seed. They are unbeaten. They've already knocked off Bowles. They've knocked off Brunswick, Georgia. They beat Bartram Trail. So, yeah, deservingly number 1. How about Clay, 4-1 to start as a 4 against Choctaw? Frank Beasley's team would have to come all the way over here to Northeast Florida.
Well, let's see what happens here.
Well, that's the 4-5.
Well, here's the thing. But let's see what happens between Choctaw and Escambia first.
Well, exactly. That's not necessarily, we don't know that yet. But Lincoln, Pine Forest, 2-7 in the Panhandle, and then Escambia, as you mentioned, Matanzas. Interestingly, no, I think that might be their first postseason appearance of Matanzas. The Pirates made that, but right now they're 3-1. So yeah, we'll see if that holds as well. Interesting region, but St. Augustine to me would probably be a pretty good favorite, although Escambia and Lincoln would have something to say about it.
No, absolutely. And of course, looking at some things here, got Lincoln Pine Forest, as you said, Escambia, Matanzas, some interesting teams there. But let's get into Region 2 here, Marty, here in terms of what we got sitting here with the teams. Vanguard sitting there at 1, and very interesting. You see a team down there that we don't really talk much about in the 3 seed, Leesburg, 4-1.
Only lost to Vanguard, who's the 1 seed. And yeah, you're right, Leesburg. And there's Lecanto, who would be there for the second year in a row. Also, you have Lake Wales and Auburndale. That's a nice rivalry there in Polk County area. Zephyr Hills and Cypress Creek, the 4-5. Vanguard, I think, Tavares, we'll see again if that holds. But Vanguard would be a favorite, I think, to get through at least a couple of rounds here. But then they could see Lake Wales or Auburndale. And last year, of course, Lake Wales, the defending state champ, I think beat Vanguard, shut them out last year in the postseason. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes. If Vanguard's the one, they'll be at home. But yeah, Leesburg having a nice year there at the bottom, and they're off to a 4-1 start, and we'll see if that continues.
No, you're absolutely right there, Marty, and everything. And of course, Lake Wales there too, like you said. And then of course, let's go into Region 3 here as we get Ligon. No surprise here, sitting there, who's at number 1 right now in Region 3.
Yeah, they might be the number 1 team in the state in 3S right now. Mainland undefeated. They've already knocked off Bartram Trail and Rains, and they struggled a bit with Lake Mineola last week, but won that game 31-28. But 5-0 Mainland is right now the number 1 team, the state runner-up from a year ago. The Blue Streaks of Sebring may be their first-round opponent if that holds. And then as you go down, Eau Gallie, nice year for them. They're the 2 seed according to this. And again, against Rockledge, that would be a battle of the of Brevard County there. Rockledge and Eau Gallie went at it. And then also, speaking of that, Satellite Merritt Island, 2 rivals there as well. So those would be pretty interesting games there in Region 3.
No, absolutely. And of course, a lot of good football teams. Fort Pierce was one another team that we really haven't talked about much here, but starting to work back. Chris Coquel's got that team going in their second year here. So in the playoff hit hunt for the Fort Pierce Westwood team there. And of course, and then hit into Region. Oops, we got what's going on here? Why do I have 3S thing? I see what happened here. Hold on 1 second. I gotta take that look. Click the wrong 3S there. Let me make sure that I give you the 3S Region 4 here, so that way that one correct up there on the screen here, so that I give you all the thing. We'll see why I did not.
How can you make a mistake here, Josh? I don't know, man. There's only 18,000 regions. Yeah.
All right, there you go. 3S Region 4 there for everybody there.
And there you go. Golden Gate. We talked to their defensive coordinator last week, coming off the big win over Naples, and Golden Gate, the 1 seed right now, is Naples is the 2. So interesting to see if Golden Gate there. And then, of course, this is mostly Southwest Florida. Dunbar, who struggled a bit as a 4 seed. And then you got Barron Collier at the bottom and Mariner 3-6 game. So, yeah, interesting to see if Golden Gate and Naples may be a rematch in the playoffs.
No, you're absolutely right. And, of course, that'll be very interesting to see what happens there in terms of that. And, of course, now, Marty, about roll into this 3M Region 1 here and go ahead and just continue on here. But it's no surprise there if anybody's been following football. If you've been sleeping under a rock, I cannot help you on that one. But Edgewater sitting there 5-0, who just knocked off a Popka 27-0 last week. So, I mean, there you go.
Yeah, that's something. But right now, Fletcher, the 8 seed, who started 0-2, now 3-2. Seatric Faison, their team won a district title a year ago. And then in the middle, you got Tampa Bay Tech. Is that Jacksonville, Inglewood?
Yes, it is. Wow, yes, it is.
Okay. I had to say, I was trying to figure out because that traveling to Tampa Bay Tech would be quite a trip. But yeah, Inglewood, nice season for them. And then the bottom, Armwood. Surprised Armwood's a 3 here, really, but because as far as I know, they haven't lost yet. But that's a 3-6 with Wakaiva, who's also another program that's been on the rise. So yeah, interesting there. I think Edgewater probably and Tampa Bay Tech would be the favorite. Armwood's going to have something to say about that as well. That's going to be an interesting region.
By the way, coming up at 7:30, we'll have the South Florida Blitz here, and then of course, at 8:15, we'll have the Central Florida Blitz at 8:40. I want to say 9 o'clock. We will have the Gulf Coast Blitz, and then at 9:45, we'll have the North Florida Blitz. So stay tuned. Different regions for the Blitz here, 4 shows, and you'll be able to get your fix here for your region here. So stay tuned for the Blitz shows as well. But continue on, Marty, into 3M Region 2 here. Well, Tampa Jesuit sitting there one. Tampa Jesuit knocked off previously undefeated Armwood this past week. So there they are sitting there at the one.
That's why I was asking you, because I thought Armwood was undefeated, and I figured they were heavy favorite against Jesuit, but no, Jesuit gets the win. So that's good for them. They moved to the 1 seed. And that's why Armwood drops to a 3 seed in Region 1. But yep, there you see Seminole. Might as well just be Seminole squared against Pinellas Park.
That's a good way to look at it.
4-5 matchup. Yep. This is a mostly Tampa Bay area, of course. Largo, St. Pete Northeast, Pinellas County, and then Hillsborough, East Bay, back in Hillsborough County. So, yeah, I think Jesuit is starting to turn it around. Jesuit Largo would be an interesting matchup to see. I would think Jesuit, if they continue playing like they are, would be able to get out of this region.
No, you're absolutely right. I think that'll be very, very interesting to see how they with everything to get out of this region and stuff, and that'll be huge right there. And of course, looking at some stuff here, Marty, going into Region 3 in Class 3M, I think this is where it starts to get interesting here, because there's some teams that are sitting there floating along the top. I mean, you got Aquinas, obviously the obvious suspect there in 3M Region 3, but here you go. Delray Beach Atlantic sitting there 2, Coconut Creek 3, and then of course Blanche Ely at 4. Of course, Coconut Creek beat Blanche Ely here just recently, and then of course Coconut Creek gave Plantation the business too. And by the way, Plantation sitting there at 6. Now, someone that's going to ask me about South Plantation, who has been like, I want to say 4-1, and there they are right there sitting there at number 7.
There they are, but I tell you, I look at this and I don't know if this is a typical St. Thomas Aquinas team, but I really don't see them having a lot of trouble with this Region 3, other than, as you said, maybe Coconut Creek could possibly, but I think Aquinas will have probably not much trouble getting through that Region 3 and 3M.
No, you're absolutely right there, Marty. I think that'll be the case here and all that. So looking at Region 4 here, Region 4 and 3M, I mean, this is a little bit interesting. It's a mix of Broward and Dade here in terms of what you're looking at. And, of course, South Broward sitting there at the 1 seed right now, Miami Southridge 2, Homestead 3, Dr. Crop 4, as you see on the screen here. So some interesting teams right now. South Broward, Dr. Crop, by the way, did not finish their game Friday night, got suspended because of weather. They're actually playing right now as we speak. So they're finishing that game up tonight.
Well, and right now South Broward's the 1, so maybe that would change some things if Dr. Crop won. I guess we'll have to see with the numbers next week. Southridge, we know they've been good through the years. Homestead and Berlin Jesuit at the bottom would be a good matchup. Again, as you said, a lot of mostly Miami-Dade and Broward County schools, but that's all there is there in that region.
No, you're absolutely right there, Marty, and everything. And of course, let's go to our chat here real quick here, as we got some comments sitting here in the thing. And Hassani Harper said, and then with the 3S stuff, Lake Wales versus Vanguard, that'd be very interesting there.
That was last year's game. Lake Wales shut them out. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And of course, here we go. Here's another one. Not a hard region for Jesuit. They're talking about 3M Region 2.
I agree. And Michael Parsons says that. And also he says St. Thomas.
But,
sorry.
Well, no, but I'm going to say, but Armwood.
Armwood's there, yeah, and they just beat Armwood, which is interesting. But yeah, that's well, no, they're not. Armwood's not in their region.
Yeah, so we got to think. Well, not in their region, but I think
if they were to go to the state, semifinals,
there's a potential there. So there's a potential for a rematch there. St. Thomas Aquinas in a weaker region. I don't disagree there with you, Michael, on that one.
Yeah, I think so too. And then the last thing he says, Homestead the favorite. That's interesting. In that last region we were just talking about with South Broward. So. Yeah, I could see that. But yeah, I think Aquinas, I agree completely with Michael on the Aquinas region.
No, absolutely. Here, Joshua Wilson here, Marty Pallman as well here, and we're getting into the last stretch here of the playoff rankings breakdown show here on FHSAA and of course on all of our social media platforms here, and of course we got the Blitz shows coming up here starting at 7:30 tonight here, as well as you see our nice lovely little helmet collection and hat collection that we've got. So all of these different high schools that we have. Just a small sampling of teams here, but anyways here, and then we'll let me go ahead and bring that up here real quick. This is Lakeland. Keep going. There we go. A little technology there. He's talking about Lakeland here, which we'll actually talk about here, Lakeland here in just a moment, Charles here. So we've got that coming up here as well. So we've got 4S and 4M left here to go, Marty.
Yeah, and he says if Lakeland went out and go 8-2, 3-0 district, you think Lakeland gets 1 seed or Bartow for this region too? Well, if you beat Bartow, I think Lakeland will get the 1 seed.
Well, we'll see what happens here.
Yeah, we'll see. But as you said, we're moving into 4S right now. As we'll take a look at Region 1. There's another region I know pretty well. As this contains Buchholz, and Buchholz right now unbeaten, And not really having much trouble so far through this regular season. They would be the one here. Flagler Palm Coast is the 8 seed. And then you got Ponte Vedra. I think Ponte Vedra is an interesting team because they lost opening week to Bartram Trail by 3. They go to Tallahassee and beat Florida High the next week. And they've kind of rolled through the last 2 weeks. So I think Ponte Vedra as a 5 is kind of a dangerous team if they play Leon there. Leon, but by the way, look at that. There's the Leon Lions right there. The 4 seed.
Yes, Leon's 5-0 for the first time since if somebody has that, I don't know. It's got to be going back to the 1980s, people.
And the reward would get Ponte Vedra in the first round and maybe Buchholz in the second round. So that's your reward, Leon, for that. But then on the bottom,
so far,
that's true. Then you got Niceville as the 2. Creekside now coming in as a 7 after beating Mandarin last week. Creekside is and we're going to talk to the voice of Creekside football coming up later tonight in our North Florida Blitz. And then Pace, Bartram Trail. That'd be a fun matchup as well. Bartram Trail dropping to a 6 seed. Right. Bartram Trail dropping to a 6 seed. They have 2 losses, but those are to Mainland and to St. Augustine, so you can't really fault them there. But yeah, that's basically the Northeast and Panhandle region there in Class 4S Region 1.
And 4S Region 2. So this is what Charles Bell was just talking about. Bartow's sitting there at a 1 seed right now, and Lakeland's sitting there at 5. So
wow.
So Lakeland's kind of having of course, a little bit of a it's an early struggle, but we'll see what happens there.
But if they win the district and beat Bartow, I have a feeling they're probably going to move up to the 1. I don't know if George Jenkins. I think we were talking George Jenkins as a 2 was a little surprising. They would play Lake Gibson in the first round. I think Springstead as a 4 is surprising, but if they win their district, they may be there. East Ridge and Wiregrass Ranch at the bottom. East Ridge is a 3. It's a kind of a little bit topsy-turvy here. Bartow, Lake Mineola up top. Lake Mineola is only 1-3, but they lost last week to Mainland by 3, so they've had a pretty tough slate as well.
No, you're not wrong there, and I think that's going to be the interesting thing there. And of course, let's head into Region 3 and 4S here, Marty. Treasure Coast, who got something. I thought they were going to play closer to St. Thomas Aquinas this past week. No dice there on that one, but Treasure Coast sitting there at that 1 seed there in Region 3 to start out the playoff rankings.
Yeah, some teams are still going to beat other teams. St. Thomas Aquinas beating Treasure Coast, but yeah, you see them as the 1 seed in Region 3. There's DeLand, who only an 8 seed. I think they're going to maybe work their way up as the season goes on. Heritage and Vero Beach. Vero Beach is a 5. Vero Beach is a 5 seed. Coming off, they lost their first game last week. University and Spruce Creek, Orange City University. That's a bit of a rivalry game there. And then New Smyrna Beach is having a nice year. They're unbeaten against Martin County. So,
no, absolutely.
All right.
So, and then here, 4S Region 4, Marty, sir. Here we go.
Well, welcome to the Southwest Florida region here with Sarasota and Manatee, Bradenton Manatee. That'd be a fun matchup in the first round. Palmetto and Venice, the defending state champ Venice, or runner-up,
yes,
from a year ago. Sarasota Riverview, Lakewood Ranch, and Gulf Coast, and Immokalee. Immokalee maybe is the only team in there outside of the really outside of the Bradenton, Sarasota area.
And Gulf Coast, too. So right there in the Lee County area. Now, interesting enough, right now, the second, that section right there, the second, there's someone's interesting. I did, and this is probably another area where I overlapped here in terms of looking at it, but I need to look at it real quick. But it's in District 15, because the problem is all the District 15 teams. So Lehigh would be the first team actually probably be sitting there at 8 seed and not Manatee. So it depends on, again, we got to look at it. Some of these districts have not played district games. Riverdale's the only team in that District 15 there in 4S that has won a game, and they actually just won it here and thing. But I mean, the teams are just struggling there in District 15, but we'll see what happens here over the next few weeks here as district play really kind of gets into action here, Marty. But let's roll into 4M here, Marty. And no surprise sitting here, Lake Mary, number 1 seed. And then there's Mandarin sitting there at number 2, who actually Mandarin was being rolled a lot of and talked about the Mustangs. And here they are sitting there at the number 2 seed here in Region 1. And of course, you see Popka, who got shut out by Edgewater, number 5 seed to start out the thing.
Yeah, a little surprised Edgewater shut them out like they did, but Edgewater having another good year. How about Atlantic Coast, though? A team that had lost 14 in a row coming in this year. They started 3-0. They've lost to Mandarin and to Camden County, Georgia, last 2 weeks. But there they are at the 8th seed. And then, as you mentioned, of course, Winter Park Apopka would be a good an Orange County rivalry there as well. But yeah, Mandarin, beat Bowles to start the year. They've really they've had a nice start. They lost to Creekside last week by a point, but they're in good shape. And then Sanford Seminole Haggerty at the bottom, another Seminole and Orange County matchup as well.
No, you're absolutely right there, Marty. All right, heading into Region 2 here so we can wrap this thing up here for the night for the first time. Sumner sitting there at the number 1 seed. A bit of a surprise there for people that may be thinking, well, but Sumner's 5-0. Alonzo sitting there at number 2 seed, 5-0. So it's very interesting. Tampa Plant. Where's Tampa Plant, people? Well, they're sitting actually not in the top 8 of the region,
Yeah,
but
long way
to go. Very much a long way to go, but we'll see what happens here. Plant and Alonzo, I believe, do have to play each other. They're in the same region, same district, I should say. So just keep an eye on it. I think this is going to change here very much here in the next few weeks.
Yeah, and much like Seminole squared, we have Riverview squared there at the bottom. Riverview is the 3, and they're 4-0 to start. So, we're talking about them and their surprise. Alonzo's a surprise a little bit there as well. Dr. Phillips is, surprising maybe they're that low. But as you said, the number 1 seed there is the school. Well, how many years has Sumner even been around? It's a fairly new school.
They opened in 2020, I want to say.
So like 3 years, and they're undefeated. So yeah, nice to see. That's an interesting region in Class 4M, which of course is the biggest classification in the state. Part of the biggest schools, the 4M.
No, you're absolutely right there, Marty. All right, here we go. Let's finish this up here and going into Region 3. Palm Beach Central, no surprise, sitting there at the 1 seed. And, of course, number 2 seed, Monarch. Santa Lucia is sitting there at 3. And then Spanish River, who came back into district play this year, sitting there at number 4. And Spanish River, I believe, is 5-0 right now in the season. So the Sharks there at Spanish River come back in the state series, and they may be looking at a playoff spot.
Yeah, South Florida teams here again. Palm Beach Central, we know about them. As you just mentioned, Spanish River. I would say Palm Beach Central is favored, but Santa Lucia probably have something to say about it as well, as you said, Spanish River. And anyway, sorry, let's move along to 4M4.
Yes, the last region of all the regions that we got. Columbus, no surprise, sitting there at number 1. Cypress Bay sitting there at 3. Miami Palmetto 2. Western 4. And you can see how the rest of the region 4 shakes out right there. It is what we got right now. But
that's going to be a battle there, that whole region, those top 4, if that's the way it ends up.
Yeah.
And then you got South Dade and West Broward down there as well.
But I'll tell you right now, here you go. I think the 2 teams that are really going to be the ones that come out of this region, if this holds that 1-2 seed there, Columbus and Miami Palmetto, they're sitting there for that regional final. I think that's what's going to happen, Marty. I'll be honest with you. I think those are the two best teams in that region, period. I mean, right now, Western has been struggling. I mean, most years Western would be that 3rd team sitting in the mix, but I just don't know. I'm not so totally certain about what the Wildcats are right this second here.
Yep. So, that we've covered it all now. Anybody have anything else to say? Let's see. Well, excuse me, Michael Parsons again.
There's that. So, we seem to have lost a thing with connection. So it sounds like we're still seeing. It says we're still live. We'll see what happens. There we go. We're good now.
Yeah.
So we are good there now and everything. And Marty, definitely fun and definitely appreciate thing. And we've had a good night here so far.
Yeah, this is good. I guess we'll try to do this every Tuesday, and we just went 4 minutes past 7, so not bad. At one point, I thought we might go for 2 hours or so there, but yeah, that was fun. I'm glad we were able to do this, and I know a lot of it we're just kind of at this point is conjecture because it's not actual final, but yeah, it's fun to talk about and kind of look at these matchups in this first week 6 already of the season.
All right. Well, for Marty Pallman, I'm Joshua Wilson here, FHSAA Stay tuned. We have the Blitz shows coming up here starting at 7:30, and we'll go through until a little after 10 o'clock tonight here. But appreciate everybody joining us here, and we'll see you here on FloodHSFootball.com and the FloodHSFootball.com social media platforms. Until next time, see you later.